is a 2008 Sucker Punch Sally. And from all the motorcycle companies that came out in the mid-2000s, this is actually one of my favorites. But like most stories that have motorcycles that look like this one ends up with someone going to jail. Punch Sally, it's one of those names that first time you hear it, you're like, that's a dumb name. But then you hear it enough times, you're like, all right, you just get used to it. But it is better than Big Bear Choppers. I think there's one called Great Wolf Choppers and Big Dog Choppers. I think we need to get off that, big animal chopper craze. All right, so in the early 2000s, two things were happening. One, everybody was playing their Nintendo DS. Two, everyone that could was making custom motorcycles or custom choppers. And what I mean by that is they were all just copying Harley Davidson in some way. When I say copy, I mean just using Harley Davidson parts to put their own bike together. That's a Harley Davidson engine, FLH tank. This is a Harley Davidson frame. They just made it a rigid. Sucker Punch Sally started in Scottsdale, Arizona in 2007. And they only built a few models, but all their bikes were custom built for you. But not completely custom. The frame and the engine and the forks were all the same. You may have a couple of different options of engines, but you got to choose the paint color and the pinstripings and the grips and the mirror and the stuff like that. And during the existence of the company, which only lasted about 7 years, they made 6 different models. But they had a really good reputation for building quality vehicles at a reasonable price and that had a warranty on them and that looked really cool. So basically what they were doing was they were taking motorcycles that people love to customize. They love to make cool. They love to, give it that 40 style, that rat rod type of vibe, and they were making it easy, reliable, and consistent, and not that expensive to get custom built from a factory. And they were making it easy and reliable to do with a dealer warranty on it. It was kind of a win-win. And if you think about it, it's a pretty good proposition, because what else are you going to do if you want a custom bike build, but you're not going to do it yourself? You don't have the time, or you don't have the resources, or you don't have the know-how to do it. I mean, I'm in the motorcycle industry. I know a lot of people, and I could maybe count 3 people that I think have the ability to build a custom motorcycle for me, but chances are I'm going to get robbed, the guy might overdose, and that's me, and I know a lot of people. Or the other option is you find some guy that put a bike together using like scrap and spare parts, and he thinks his bike is worth $70,000, which was, happening back then. But for whatever reason, maybe they bit off more than they could chew. Maybe they were just always criminals. Maybe they were well-intentioned bike builders who had no idea how to run a business. The tragedy is the owner of SPS, and that's how we abbreviate Sucker Punch Sally because the name is so long. The owner of Sucker Punch Sally got arrested in 2014 after a 2-year-long investigation, after a lot of people ordered and paid for motorcycles but never received them. There was $3.6 million worth of judgments put on the company. And just like that, Sucker Punch Sally's kind of fizzled out. Although I still think that there is a room in the market for cool bikes like this because, let's be honest, this is a timeless look. This is not a big wheel front chopper bagger like, those things are fads, and whether they're gonna stand the test of time, we don't really know. We know choppers really didn't, but this classic motorcycle look, looks more like the 40s bikes and looks more like the style that has been around for the past 80 years. So I still think it's a great idea and a great concept. All right, guys, before we take this thing out for a spin and hopefully it fires up, let's do the words of wisdom. John 16:33. These things I've spoken to you, so that in me you may have peace. In the world you have tribulation, but take courage. I have overcome the world. Amen. I'll tell you what, we need Bob verses like that with all the crazy stuff going on out there. Let's put on my gloves. Let's see if this bad boy fires up. Now, we need to get the starter rebuilt. It's kind of intermittent. Ignition, run. Well, it worked good that time. You know what? I need to make sure the fuel's on. It looks on. Bring the choke down a little bit. It's a hot day. Maybe by the time I'm at the end of the street, I can pull the choke completely off. Well, there's no doubt that it's not a really, really cool looking bike. And I feel cool riding it. I also feel like I may have taken the choke off too early. I also feel like the springs on the seat, they're not enough. Ooh. I mean, you hit the smallest, tiniest bumps I'm talking really, really small bumps. You bottom out. I only weigh 185 pounds. So you got to be like a 100-pounder. If not, you might want to put some bigger springs in there. But that's all part of the ride. There we go. It feels like the engine's clearing up a little bit. Ooh, we got Pontiac show down there. Now this is just going to handle as good as whatever Harley Davidson it was based off of, but it feels fine. You know, it's got pegs. It does have the open primary if you're all about that. I would prefer the handlebars to be a little farther back. And I'm surprised with how, even though I'm sitting on the seat, I do feel like I'm about to fall off, which is super cool. But that's just all about that life, you know? If you guys remember that custom chopper we bought for my my car mechanic a while ago, this has similar vibes. Another thing, when you start doing track days, or when you start, you know, riding motorcycle, you learn that you don't hold on. You don't hold on with your arms. You know, you're not holding on to the bike with the handlebars. You're holding on with your legs and your feet and stuff like that. On this bike you are. You're absolutely holding on to the bike from the grips, because everything else feels like you're about to fall off. The engine's clearing up. I know we didn't put new gas in it, so I mean, it does sound pretty good. It probably has some old gas. It's been sitting for a while. You see, it only has it only says it has 151 miles on it. You really need to find that guy that's just trying to live that life. And if you've been riding long enough, you know that guy. You've met him. He's out there. I think if you change the handlebars a little bit, brought them back, you know, almost maybe, I don't know, I like to go with beach bars. I'm not sure that fits this type of bike. But then you change the seat out. The seat looks cool. And this is one of the problems I have with custom motorcycle builders is, hey, why don't you just be honest? You're making art. It's all about aesthetics. And when it comes to riding it, it's not that great. A few little minor changes really makes this a cool bike. I think you need a different seat. I want a little more support back there. Something I don't feel like I'm falling off of every like 2 seconds. And then it's a very drag bar feeling. I guess if this, you know, honestly, just change the seat. Me personally, get a better seat. I would really like this bike. I bet it does some pretty good burnouts too. Let's I mean, it obviously has the power. It's got plenty of power to cruise on the highway. It's just whether you want to cruise on the highway is the problem. But man, I'll tell you what, I look cool doing this. Very, very cool looking bike. I do like it. Guys, that wraps up the test drive. If you've ever wondered what it's like to drive a Sucker Punch Sally, oh, you know what though? Real quick, they made a, I forget what they called it. They did end up making at least one Softail in their lineup, and it was pretty cool looking. All right, guys, that wraps it up. We'll see you guys next time. Remember, check out SRK Cycles for your next bike. But remember, it is not what you're riding, but where you're going.